we're like good to go.
Fantastic.
Isn't
Yeah,
that cool?
it is. And I have been looking so forward to you. I think your story is so cool to me. Like I would want to just talk to you or interview you for hours because your story sounds so cool to me.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice. I'll let my hair down and we can have some time next time with you.
Fantastic.
Oh, that'll be fun. How was your holiday?
I had a very nice holiday. I live like 4 hours south of Chicago. And so I went up to Chicago to connect with my son and my ex-husband, and my daughter came with me. She lives with me. My son goes to college there. His dad lives there. So we had a lovely family Thanksgiving. It was very fun.
Oh, that's nice. And who cooked?
Actually, my ex-husband, he cooked and did a phenomenal job. And it's the first time since we've been divorced, which has been for 17 years, that
Oh,
we,
wow.
just the four of us, had a family Thanksgiving. And the kids are adult now, so it was just beautiful. There was no parent on the premises.
Oh, isn't that nice? No, he obviously can handle himself in the kitchen. Yeah.
Well, I think his girlfriend helped him with some of the dishes, but yes, he can. Yeah, he is. Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're a big culinary guy, and I'm huge in that too. But so John, he is very much the kind of guy who will get a like when he was growing up, he'd get a Pyrex dish, and he would just throw like crack an egg, throw some coffee grounds, put some breadcrumb. He's that kind of guy. Like, and he's a scientist anyway, so he gets kind of very experimental. And so for this, he got recipes and made beautiful dishes. So
Oh,
it
isn't
was
that
great.
nice? No, it's interesting that you said he's a scientist because a lot of scientists don't do improv. They do very formulaic kind of approaches
Uh-huh.
to life and to food and all of that. So it's nice to hear that he can work both his right and left brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is very like that. Yes.
Now, you said that you are also someone who's into food, so do tell.
Oh, so I grew up with a mother who had us right by her side in the kitchen all our lives, and learned by just osmosis and doing it. And then that is a way that I creatively express with food. I play piano, so with music, but not with a paintbrush or a pencil and drawing. I can't do that at all. But food, I mean, I just love food. Like I could just, I mean, back in the day, I would just read cookbooks. Now it's just all in there, and I am creative. Like I think about flavors together, and so then, or I just go into the kitchen and you give me three things, and I will make something pretty fun, which I'm sure you do too. I'm sure your ability is beyond mine.
So Laura does make food fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know what time it is where you're at, but what have you eaten today?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I was like, surely he's going to ask me about food today. So I'm doing a lot of prepping. So I'm in Illinois and we have winter and the power can go out. And then I also just like to have food on hand and I have more time to create and then freeze it and whatever. So last night I made the best onion soup I've ever made in my life. And I usually don't follow recipes, but I like to look at a recipe. And this was a recipe that had after you do your onion thing, you get a little bit of tamarind, a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and some garlic and some thyme. And then once you've, browned your onions, put that in there, and it made it so rich and amazing. And then today I am prepped for a stew. Like I've kind of prepped my stew meat, and I don't know what I'll do with that yet because I won't actually make a stew, but I'll make something, maybe like a stroganoff. And then I'm also going to make a big, huge thing of mushroom soup.
Oh, wow, that sounds really good. Now, getting back to the onion soup for a second, what kind of cheese and what kind of onions were you using?
So yesterday I just used organic yellow mushrooms and then the cheese it was actually a blend of Gruyere and I forget what the other one was, but
Could have
it
been
was
a
a
cheddar, maybe?
maybe. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, that sounds good. So now you're telling us what you've been cooking. What have you been eating?
Yeah, well, okay, that's funny you ask that because typically when I cook, I can't eat what I've made. Like I have to eat a bowl of cereal and then the next day I can eat it or later because I've put it all in there. But that's not true. I ate the onion soup last night and then today for lunch, I I also got some beets and carrots last night, cut those up and roasted them with just like, olive oil and salt and pepper. And then I put walnuts in almost everything. So I threw some walnuts in there, and then I had some pork ribs that had been cooked a few days ago. So I kind of tore that up after all that was cooked and put that in there. And so at room temperature, it was kind of like a beet salad, but it had pork pieces. And so I had that. I had some of that and some bread today.
So, it's interesting also. I definitely want to talk about you being this thought, behavior, and communication coach because that's really where you shine. I know this, but I want to go back a few years when you were working with Jenny Craig and you're working as a weight loss coach.
Yeah.
Now that you've had time to reflect upon the culture and society of diet and health, and have you seen that maybe Jenny Craig was more of an enterprise that was a commercial enterprise than one that really understood food and health and weight?
Oh, that's a great question. In hindsight, because I did that when I was 25 or 26 is when
I
I started
figured.
working.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so at the time, I was just excited that I could help people psychologically change their behaviors, their relationship with food, the angst, the bad habits, and all of that. But actually, because I would teach there, and Jenny Craig really did care. I mean, I have to say, food portions, and I don't think that, as it goes, packaged foods, it was the healthiest food. And I don't even think she thought it was the healthiest food. It was really about portion control.
Right.
But that company did actually put a component of education of helping people with their behaviors. And so
For
I
what they
think
knew at
that
the time.
for what
Yeah.
they knew at the time, oh yes, for what they knew at the
Right.
time, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was a great effort and a great, for what it was and at the time that it was a kind of a great beginning before people had any information at their fingertips to learn about body, biology, hormones, because all of that's now included in how you take care of your health.
Right. And has your personal approach to food, dining, and the world of food changed since those days?
Actually, when I first got that job, I was so excited because I'd gone from radio and television to this work I really cared about and wanted to do. And that's to help people with their mind and their behaviors. And here I was, a total fraud because I'd go home and I had all the same problems of no control, using food for other reasons, all of that kind of stuff. And so I was walking to work one day, this is in Chicago, and I was like, you are such a liar. You are such a fraud. How can you go and sit and tell people do this and do that and do this when behind your front door you're not doing this? And so for me, I had to. I'm like, you have got to know this, Laura. You have got to figure yourself out. And really, what that was such a great blessing for me, just personally, that job, because it put me in integrity because I wanted to be a great coach and a great person. So I wanted to be honest. And so what it taught me really to this day, 25 years later, I'm able to be in good shape, in control of my food. I can eat anything I want. I can go through any kind of problem in my life. And I've been through a divorce. I've been through two kids. I mean, I've been through stuff, big moves, and nothing knocks me off my tracks because I really learned, and this is what I believe, know thyself. You know kind of what puts the weight on and what enables you to kind of not work at keeping your body, but being able to sustain a healthy weight. So I gained a lot from the research and the education I put myself through to bring to my clients there. And then so many years of doing it, it is ingrained in me. So I really, if I ever even get seduced by some of the stuff I see on, TikTok or Instagram or whatever, like you must do this, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should intermittent fast. Maybe I should just eat all protein. It really does not, like my body does not react, I think, the way that they intend it to. And so then I'm like, oh, Laura, get off of that and just do what you've been doing because it works.
Have you ever had any sort of a weight problem in your past?
You would never, in looking at any picture of me and if knowing me at any age, you would not say she has a weight problem. Never, because I'm 5'7.5", and my body's pretty proportioned, so I've never looked it, but I had a weight problem here,
Sure.
really.
I think
And so,
most
but
people
yeah,
do have issues
yeah,
with the way that they approach it.
yeah. So I've always stayed within. Um, I think at the time of Jenny Craig, I weighed I weighed about 10 pounds more than I do now. And then from the learning of all the stuff that I've learned there and just have carried it through the years, I've always stayed within, I lost probably 10 pounds and then I've stayed within a 5 pound, always a 5 pound, range.
Before when you were saying that when you got the Jenny Craig job some 25 years ago or so, that it felt so great, but then there was a point where you thought, well, I'm really not being completely authentic here. That brings me to the question of, there are a lot of teachers, a lot of educators, and a lot of mentors out there who do what I say, not what I do kind of routine. And they're not exactly in all their authentic self, but they can help people even when they're faking it till they make it. Do you see any sort of correlation between that?
I have a very strong opinion and a position on that, actually, personally, just personally. I'm a pretty, I mean, I came in and then I had a dad who reinforced it. I'm a very honest person, tell the truth, be honest, be honest. And then just as I've grown, I've spiritually grown into the how important that is. So for me, when I, even in, it can just be a quick 10-second marketing thing or whatever, or just talking to somebody. I feel like I have a pretty good meter of how authentic and how true is this person to what they're saying. They can, they know it and they can help me do it. So for me personally, this is the best way for me to respond to that. It's like I don't believe in that.
Mhm.
But I do believe so. Like meaning I don't find that to be because then you can look at me and go, well, Laura, that's what you did, right? So I guess there's two people, there's two camps. There's the person who I am going to grow and learn so I can help other people grow and learn. And I call that, and I've told this to my clients for years, I'm just 3 blocks ahead of you. Like, because I believe in they trust those who've gone before you. So it's like, hey, I've learned how to not do this or how to do this or how to achieve this. And so, but I don't claim to be some great, master and oracle, but it's like, I see where you are and I used to be there. So, trust me, I've been there, but it's not like I've got it all figured out. So I'm still learning. And then there is, and early in my coaching career, after Jenny Craig and I started my own business, I wanted just to coach anybody. And then, some people would come to me and be like, could you help me with this? And like one man wanted me to like help him increase his business to by like $3 million. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And that's the day I learned. I'm like, I cannot say I can coach this man because I don't know how to do that. There are some people who I think would take that business and have no clue, and they're not even aiming for that.
Right.
And so I hope that answers your question.
Well, I was just thinking when you were saying that, it's like, if I knew how to help you make $3 million, I wouldn't be working.
Yeah, right, right. And so, but I do think there's some people out there who maybe promise things, and they're kind of faking it till they make it. But then I guess the key thing would be, and then what are you actually doing behind your front door to actually make that happen? And I think it's a lot
Mm.
more than just hoping and wishing and writing it as a goal every year. I think it's beyond also what you do. I think it's the mindset and the consciousness that you have.
So I guess for about half of your life, you've been doing coaching and so on. So is this because you're a very high touch people pleaser type of person who has good information? Or is it that and you have background and training in that field?
I'm going to sandwich this. I think I came in as a little being who already had a knowing of we have so much. I don't know how I knew this, but as it goes, there's a knowing of the potential and the uniqueness and the creative force that all of us are. Somehow I knew that. And I was that as a young person. Then as it goes, you grow into the environment, into the culture that you are. You are influenced by the world around you. And I absolutely became a people pleaser for sure. And I wanted people to feel good. I wanted people to like, eat my presence in me and all of that's very affirming and validating and everything. And then as I've continued to evolve in my own journey, I'm kind of back to the original, which is I cannot not talk about this, like especially the word stuff that I'm so excited about. I can't not talk about it because I find it so important. So even if I never get paid a nickel, I have to because you have potential, you have blocks, you have ways to express this, and I know how to help you do that. And so I'm back to it's not even about people pleasing at all. It's about I have a job to do.
Right, right. Okay. Now, you said you had a thing with words. Is that something that pre-existed your coaching career?
I love your questions. Gosh. So, as a young girl, as a little girl, I have a twin sister. And so I'm the very verbal one. I could speak quickly. I spoke a lot. I spoke for the both of us. It was an extrovert. She was quiet. She was the artist. She didn't speak maybe as quickly and as well as I did at a certain age. And so I did enjoy it naturally. And then through my education and growing up, I just thought I have a knack and an ability to speak and to speak well. And then through my coaching, my clients would say over the years, like if they would tell me something and then I'd reiterate it back to them, and they'd be like, oh my God, you say it so well. I wish I could say it like you. Or they'd say, oh, Laura, I wish, like when I was in this situation, I thought, what would Laura say or think? And I had no idea that like the way I communicate is so effective or has such impact. And so I started paying attention to that. And then through my work, I started really honing in on the words. So I have this, I'm a Gemini. I have a natural knack for words. So, so I've always been this way, but I've also developed it. And now I'm at a point where just through, again, I'm very seasoned, that there's something I know that unless you've been coaching people for 28 years and had all the conversations, you probably don't know some of the things I know about how we use language in our words. So it's a real love affair, and it's also in the bone marrow.
Are you the person who's always working on crossword puzzles and doing all the word games and all that?
I am not. I'm not. Only because I mostly just don't do that. I'm almost spend any of my time learning something. But I am. I spent a year in Italy years ago, before Jenny Craig, right before Jenny Craig, and now I'm doing Duolingo. I'm kind of relearning and getting my skills back up. So that I do, and that's all very wordy because I'm learning another language. But I don't do that. But I am amazing at a word search. Seriously,
Oh,
I'm
is
like
that right?
freakishly fast. Yeah, so I can see. Yeah, so I love your questions because you are like you're poking holes and letting light out for me that I'm like, yeah, wait a second. This is all connecting.
Exactly. Well, it's supposed to.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
Yeah.
when I was reading your bio, Laura, I saw that when you moved to California and you learned NLP, so you kind of pulled that together in one sentence in your bio. And I'm just wondering, when was that you moved to California? Obviously, it wasn't forever because you're in Illinois now, but tell me about the California excursion and the NLP learning.
Yeah, California. So this is back in actually January 1st, 1999. My then husband and I, we flew on that day to both, like, he got his dream job at Apple Computer. And then I was getting my dream job of now I'm going to leave Jenny Craig and begin Laura Berkey coaching. And so that's when I got out there. And I was in process of training for my coaching and going to any training I could find. NLP was one of them. So after I'd done my just a coach training at Coach University, after I did that, I thought I was going to know it all. Like I'm going to be the best coach in the world and I know everything. And it was like 4 years. It was a true 220-hour degree of coaching. And so here I am coaching. I graduated and I'm on the phone with clients. And I don't know, this is like a few months later, maybe a year later. And I got off the phone one day. I ended with a client and I literally dropped my head down to my desk and I'm like, you suck. Like, and I was surprised because I thought I was so naive. I just thought like, oh, I was going to know it all. So that was the beginning of no, you keep learning, you keep going. And so then I just found an NLP training because it was all the thought behavior stuff that makes sense to me and is what I was interfacing with my coaching work. And
So is
so,
NLP
yeah,
something that you're incorporating into your everyday coaching?
it's like blinking now. So it's not necessarily like let's do this process and let's do that
Yeah.
process, which you learn in the training. It's in there. So it just kind of comes out in the way that I talk to people, the kind of questions I ask, what I'll say to them to get to elicit a shift, because I'm using all parts of them. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's very, very fascinating. The power of threes is a very interesting aspect of it.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Do you have a specialty as far as your coaching? Do you present yourself more to women? for women's topics or men for men's topics or just people for life topics?
Well, it all started that way. Over the years, I definitely kind of did a tour of different niches. And then it was in around 2012 that I'm like, really, my niche is this thought behavior link. And so to answer your question really simply, it really is any human being because we all work and we all have the same system, really. It works the same. Where I am now, all I can say now is where I am now is that um, I do work with couples. I help couples with relating and communicating very specifically. It's helping them relate because there's patterns and patterns are everywhere. And this is something also, if you haven't done this kind of work, you probably are not somebody who would just know that patterns are happening everywhere and all of the time. And they naturally occur. There's a pattern naturally created right here between you and I. And if we
Right.
were to talk again tomorrow and the next day, it would go exactly the same unless we were very intentional. What's the pattern we actually want to create here and to produce what kind of outcomes? So I help couples really relate and communicate in a intentional and deliberate way. So really I've taken I can work with every man, every woman, and I'm helping couples do that. And then the other thing that I do is just this word, really helping people understand that the words that you're choosing to use or are on automatic, some are helping you and empowering you, and some are disempowering you. And so that's my specialty. And that's awfully broad, I know.
Right. No, but it makes sense because people are awfully broad and their issues are as well. But when a couple thinks, wow, we need help, who do we see? How do we take the next step? How do they find you? How do they know that you offer the things that they need? Maybe they're not communicating well, but they don't really know that that's the issue. It might be a money thing, or it might be a sex thing, or it might be a family thing that's getting in the way. So how do you break through all those barriers to find out really what the issues are?
So that's where I'm a little bit different than like I think a typical marriage counselor or therapist. And in fact, so when I was married, we went to see 5 different therapists for our issues. And we ultimately we ended up in divorce. When I became a single woman and I have now single mom friends and we all learn each other's story, they all went to therapy and they're still divorced. So about maybe 5 or 6 years after my divorce, I said, this is not okay. Isn't that supposed to help? When you go to a therapist or counselor, is it supposed to help and keep you together? And so what I did was create what I know. I have a really strong feeling that if we would have done this, I'd still be married probably. And
Ah,
it's not really so my nuanced difference, because yes, healing can happen. Yes, we do discovery. Yes, we can kind of go back to childhood. We can go to the patterns. So all that occurs. But what is different than in mine is that we're not dwelling on the problems and we're not trying to fix the problems. That's less what I'm helping couples do. And I'm helping couples communicate, connect, and understand themselves and each other, because there's always going to be conflict, there's always going to be challenges, there will be
right.
problems. And I think that's the false hope we had in the past, and I think a lot of people do. If we go to a therapist, then it's all going to be, we'll get all this mess figured out and then it's going to be happily ever after. And it's not. Life is messy, but how are you guys going to together negotiate that? How are you going to kind of navigate that together in a harmonious, peaceful, and easy way? And that's what I help people do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because it's really, I guess, at the crux of it, it's about friendship and it's about being able to get along with someone in the long term because that's really what you're shooting for, isn't it?
Yes, Matt. Yes, exactly. Very, you should have answered it in one sentence. You just said it all.
There's something about in your work that you refer to as verbal precision. Could you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so that is this word stuff, which and it is so new that I'm still kind of putting together like how do I say this? Art of verbal precision is one way I say it. Word power is another way. So I'm going to give you an example of it right now.
Okay.
Okay. So when you think of a time just in the last 7 to 14 days where you may have had, and if you haven't, then we'll use me as the example, but where you had you're confronting something personal, professional, financial, emotional, spiritual. You're confronting something and you feel downright stuck or stopped about it. Like, God, I just can't seem to get beyond where I'm at on this issue or this challenge or this thought. And I really want to get beyond this. Do you have, and you don't have to, you can share as much as you want, but do you have you, yeah,
Yeah, I'll go there. I'll definitely say that I felt stuck or stopped up momentarily in the past couple of weeks on a couple of things. Yeah.
okay, okay. All right. And is there, what area, just what area of life would you say it pertains to?
Business.
Business, okay. And so right now, when you remember what, yeah, it's about business, I'm kind of stuck or stopped about something. And Matt, it is already there and it's so familiar. When you put your attention on it, even right now, what's the first thought that kind of comes up, how you think about this being stuck or stopped, this issue? What's like the kind of the normal, like this is what I think about it.
In this moment, because I'm beyond there, I feel a little bit of I'm triumph man, like I made it. I did it. I got past it. So I was able to figure it out. When I was in the moment, I was feeling frustrated by like, why aren't these people using their brain? Why don't they pretend to be helpful? Those kinds of things were going through my mind in that moment.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. And that's how it is for all of us. Why can't this happen? What's wrong with these people? Nothing ever works out for me. This always happens. That would be the patterned response, right? Which will keep a person stuck. And then their stuckness reaffirms, see, they're not doing their job. They're not helping. I'm just using you as an example. This is a very common thing. So the art of verbal precision, when you are more deliberate and intentional about how the thoughts that you're manufacturing, you're putting the words together in a certain syntax. So this is just a small example, and most people are not saying this, but they've done it, and it's empowering. And so I'm going to illuminate because I've seen this from 6-year-olds to billionaires. I've seen if you'll do this instead of what you typically do, and it may take you longer to get through the block and problem. If you do this, you're going to get out like that. Do you want to know what the words are? What to manufacture? Okay. So we'll use you as an example. So you had this, okay, got this business situation. Why aren't they doing what they're supposed to do? Or why is it taking so long or whatever? Right?
To my mind, it's like, it's so easy. Just like pull it together, get your shit together, and let's move
Yeah.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually I'm gonna offer something just as this is a way to help you get unstuck and get beyond stopped. But then I would like to kind of go back to you if you're open to it, and then tell me, well, it was this is the thought, Laura, that broke me through. But if in that moment you take the responsibility and go, gosh, Matt, like as long as you keep thinking this way, this is where you'll stay. Then, and here's the words, write it down, anyone who's listening to this. What is a new conclusion I can draw about this moment? What's a new conclusion I can draw about myself, about them, about the situation now? A new conclusion would imply a better conclusion than the conclusion you are drawing. Does that make sense?
It does. But I was thinking when you were saying that, I was wondering about what about a solution instead of a conclusion, which is an outcome? How about just thinking about plan B,
Yes,
next type of
and
thing? So that's kind of where my mind goes.
now here's the thing. So that's going to lead me to another one of my words. For sure, that is a way. It's a way forward. Now, sometimes people will come up with a solution and they're still not moving. Wait a second, but I just know if I would just do this, then it would be done. But here I stand 3 weeks later, I'm still dealing with this, right? And there's many reasons for that. But so I'm going to stay with new conclusion first. And so here's why drawing a new conclusion is in a way, it is a solution to getting unstuck and unstopped. And so here's the way I teach this typically, whether it's when you were in grade school, in high school, or in college. You started the first day, and maybe you sat next to a kid, or you had a teacher, and you thought, I don't like her. Let's go with the teacher. I don't like her. she's hard, she's cold, she's sour, whatever. So that's, whatever age you were, you had this first impression, I don't like her. And then let's just say as the year went on and she was crotchety and she was sour and she was hard and whatever, but then somewhere throughout the school year, something happened. You had to stay late after school, or you had to take a test out in the hall, or whatever. And then you had an interaction with her, or maybe she talked to your parents or whatever, and you saw that and witnessed it. And you're like, wait a minute. And all of a sudden, you have almost completely a different view and experience of her. And in that moment, what you did naturally was you drew a new conclusion. And from that day forward, you had a very different experience of this woman. This is the art of verbal precision. This is what I am bringing to the people, is something that you've been doing, and it's where you're getting your power, the empowerment to do something, and you aren't plugged into it. And so then what most people do is, I got to read another book. I got to go to another workshop. I got to I got to find the information to get me through this. And what I feel like been the benefactor over 28 years of coaching is I am seeing how we are so creatively powerful, how we are really have so much potential, and we already in a way know it. And this is why I say know thyself when I even asked that earlier. It's like if people were really encouraged to just know themselves, meaning how do I work? How do I work? And I can tell you everybody has that. Draw a new conclusion, you find, oh, now the traffic's moving again. So that is a way. It's not the only way, but it's a very natural, fast way to get traffic moving again.
So by drawing a new conclusion, are you creating a new outcome, even though it really hasn't occurred?
Yes. What you're doing is you are beginning to take the steps, which is traction, and traction comes before momentum. So even just the, wait a second, I kept thinking it this way, saw it this way, saw it this way, and I'm like, wait a second. And one conclusion I drew of myself when I got divorced, this is a big one that has reaped tons of success for me. I got divorced and I dwelled on this for a year and a half. Oh, poor me, I'm divorced. And I'm in Illinois, he's in California, and I'm doing it all by myself. How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? And I played that out for a year and a half. And then I realized one day, I'm like, Laura, why? I noticed it. Like, why every time you are in a social situation, do you have to play the violin about that to everybody? And then I answered it honestly. I'm like, I guess because I want attention. And then I said to myself, so you want negative attention? And I said, wait a minute. No, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. That's not the kind of attention I want. In that moment, I drew a new conclusion. I said, no, actually, what I want is people to look at what I'm up to and what I'm doing as a single mom, a single business owner, a single house. I want them to be impressed. I want them to be like, wow, how does she do it? And that new conclusion about my situation has changed everything. So it really just kind of shifted me into a completely different trajectory or different direction, just on a conclusion. Yeah.
Also based on the way that you expressed yourself about the way you were when you were a kid. You were the verbal one of the twins. You were the one who's always speaking up. So I could understand why someone would want to share stuff, even if it's not daffodils and roses, because it does help people think and understand. It helps you process as well.
Yes.
So I think that's a very important thing. Is that something that when you're dealing with people who aren't as verbally proficient as you are, gifted as you are, isn't it more difficult to really communicate and have your words land?
So that is, and I kind of spoke about this earlier. For clients, not everybody, yes, is verbally proficient, has the love of words that I do, but we are all using the same words and we use the same expressions. So what I feel like I'm doing is I'm just coming over and I'm like, put the two plugs together in you. And so it's not even you have to sound like me. For me, the answer is no. I don't have it. I'm not challenged with my clients that it lands well. It was a surprising reaction. One, I thought everybody was like this until I started getting feedback like, oh, I love the way you say it, Laura. And oh my God, that helps. The way I was talking was landing, but I'm also being very deliberate about the wording I use. My clients will use the very patterned, unconscious wording. And then what I'll do is I'll be like, oh, so do you mean this? Instead, like your classic when a client says, well, I'm going to try to, do this, whatever this is. And I'll be like, okay, so are you going to do that? Or are you not going to do that? So that lands immediately every single time. Oh,
Hmm.
you're right, Laura. And then truly, the more I may do it, the more they'll remember and be like, oh, that's right. I shouldn't say try because try is non-committal. Try, keeps me hanging in the balance and I don't really follow through when I say I'll try because I got the out.
How much of the wording that we use is woo woo? How much of it is real that's going to really kick our butt and get us going?
I love that question, Matt, seriously. So, um, I think in misperception, I'm not sure, but I think whenever I talk about, hey, I'm really into this verbal precision and I call it word power, I think people think that, oh, she's just going to say these like empowerment, love, joy. And that is not where the power is. Those are not the words you'll ever hear me talk about. It's the
Right.
mundane, everyday used words that is the un it's the it's right underneath our noses. It's literally right there, hiding in plain sight. We're saying these words all the time. So to me, that's where the power is, and that's what I want to help plug people into as well.
Laura, after COVID, there was an explosion of coaches. Is this something that you personally recognize? And give me your feelings on that.
Yeah. So
And why is that?
yeah. So in 1994, I left radio and television in Chicago. I thought that was going to be my big dream plan, and it was fun until it wasn't. And I'm like, this is not for me. So then, wonderfully, an opportunity to go live in Italy for a year came up, and I took it because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. In Italy is where I had hours to think about why am I here? What's my purpose? And the answer came, and it was helping people with their potential, helping people live out their dreams, helping them stay accountable to them. Back then, coaching was not a term it wasn't on the street. People were certainly coaching for many, many decades and years, but they weren't calling it coaching. So there wasn't this industry called coaching. But I had tapped into, this is what I want to do. If I could just sit on the phone with somebody and talk to them about their stuff, oh my God, this would be great. So when I came back, I thought, well, I'll go and get a master's in psychology because that's what I got my degree in. I'll get a master's, but behind my closed door, my therapist door, I'm going to do this totally other thing. So that's what happened for me. So I came back in 1995 and I'm like, that's what I was going to do. But then Jenny Craig opportunity kind of thwarted that because I'm like, oh, I can do this thing at Jenny Craig. Then in 1998, I start catching wind of coach training. And there was only at the time three outfits, three different places where you could get coach training. So that's 1998. That's when I began my studies very early. And I was a part of the group who had to go out on the streets and say, well, what do you do? Oh, I'm a coach. What's that? Why do I need a coach? And then I
Right.
even learn how to describe it. So so I was at the very kind of forefront, the front line of that. Loved it, loved it, loved it, passionate about it, whatever, and I was just doing my thing. So then, yes, to your point, COVID happens, and there is an explosion of coaches, and it's rapid. My thought is, well, that's what happens, right? So it's just got caught momentum, and now there's such very niche coaching, and then yes, anyone can call themselves a coach. I think it's great. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. I think it's wonderful. The thing that for me is like, oh wow, just as it's coming, it's exploding. I'm kind of like, I'm done. Like
Right.
I'm going out the back door, and I'm just doing my next evolutionary step, which really now is trainings, workshops, writing a book, that kind of thing. But I think it's great, people helping people. And actually I feel pretty excited because this was what we had hoped it would become, right? At the beginning, like we were building an industry, something that would be taken serious and would be legitimized.
That was definitely part of the grand promise, wasn't it? That we
It
would be
was,
able to do that. But
yeah.
how do you feel as a woman of a certain age, and I'm a guy of a certain age beyond you, when a 25-year-old kid walks up and wants to give you advice or coach you on finances or life or marriage? I mean, for me, I respond poorly to that kind of thing because how am I going to take advice or help from someone who hasn't really lived their life and doesn't have much experience?
Yeah, well, that was the very same hurdle I had to, scale as a brand new coach. So, props to them, and, just keep going at it. You'll find the right people will connect.
Yeah,
For me personally, I would, if I want to talk to somebody financial, it really, for me, and I have a healthy portion of the same response that you have, but then there are some things that I think this younger, like anything social media related, I would probably choose to have somebody of a younger generation coach me than an older because they're way more familiar with it. And then
sure.
with other things, I think I would choose somebody who they've walked in these shoes, they know. So it definitely would be a case by case, situation for me. I
It's
think,
funny that you
yeah,
came up with the social media because that's the only place that I came up with when I thought about it. I mean, that was
yeah,
the immediate first thing. But other
yeah.
than that, there's not a lot of like life's challenges or triumphs that a 20-year-old can really teach us, is there?
Well, I think in the majority, probably not.
Yeah.
Um, and one thing that I had said to a client way back when I got started, and I was also this. Now, her and I were, she was just a little bit younger than me. So it was still somebody a little bit older and wiser coaching her. But, she was feeling that like, being taken seriously and being able to coach people who might be older than her, because she was just in her probably late 20s, this person, again, 20 years ago. And I had told her, I said, even if the only value, the only thing you really bring strong to a coaching call is your true unadulterated interest. You're genuinely interested and you genuinely care that this person has somebody with them to help them, even for just get clarity, help them talk about it. That's very valuable. You don't have to
Hmm.
have all the answers. And I certainly didn't. Back when I was 20 something, I didn't have all the answers, thus the Jenny Craig thing. I had to go learn rapidly, and that's the
Right.
other thing. I was willing to do the read the books, learn all the chemistry, the I mean, I really went down into the, rabbit hole to really learn this stuff because they didn't have the time to do it. And that's where I think people were taking me seriously because I was going and getting educated where they're like, I don't have time to educate that. So coach me and help me with what you're learning. Even if you don't have the life experience to understand what it means to be a single mom of three kids, and whatever.
Wow. Okay. And so, for the most part, did you decide shortly after the divorce or sometime after that that maybe being in a married setting was not your thing?
Uh, I am married. I got remarried 2 years ago.
Oh, you did. Good for you.
I did.
Congratulations.
However,
Uh-huh.
however, I
Yeah.
didn't need that. I didn't need it nor want it. I was because I had gotten during COVID, I had decided, and this is a very strong word. It's a powerful word people use all the time. And if you understood, and I'm just going to say it right now, and because it's worth sharing this. And this is a little exercise I put people through, in my workshops. If you just write down, and maybe you'll do this later today or tonight or tomorrow. If you would just write down 3 to 5 things from your past, Matt, going all the way back to 8 years old if you want, 18, 28, 38, 48, anytime. And you can write down 3 to 5 accomplishments, things that you've absolutely accomplished. Certifiably, I accomplished that. And to this day, when I remember that accomplishment, I can't help but my I smile just a little bit. I'm like, God, I still feel proud about that.
Right.
That was a decision. A decision had been made, and then so a decision was made. So my point is, and I've seen it, 28 years of coaching. When one makes a decision, and a decision is when the head, the heart, and the gut all get in on it, and every
Uh-huh.
party. That's called alignment. We're doing this. I'm selling that bike. I'm quitting that job. I'm breaking up with this person. I'm moving across the country. That's a decision. You can feel it. And every part of you, there's not one party that's like, well, I don't know. It's all in it. So when you make a decision and your body's all in on it, but that's what a decision is, a true decision. A choice is different. Making a choice, onion soup or Caesar salad, that's a choice. That's not a decision. A decision is usually much weightier and bigger. If you make an
Right.
absolute decision, this year I'm doubling my income, and not one part of you has resistance, success trust me, that will happen. I think you asked me a question and I took that, I took an opportunity to say that. Like, do you
Glad
remember
you
what you,
did. That was fun. Thought you were making the point about why you decided to get remarried 2 years ago.
yes. The relationship's amazing, and it
Uh-huh.
is, I have to say, because of the stuff that I teach couples, and it's not tactic oriented. It's real. It's in it, and you said it, Matt. It really is building a friendship. Very important. Understanding not just your partner, and not just your partner understanding you, but you understanding you. Doing that and having that established is so key for a real connection and for a climate that is like, God, this is easy to be in. This feels safe to be in because I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to give myself up to be with you. And so, and this is kind of go back to Jenny Craig. I have to practice what I preach. And this relationship is the best one I've ever been in because mature enough to really be showing up this way. So it was a blessing in disguise that, you know, because I think I'm giving more to it being married than the mindset I would have had if I'm like, well, we're not married.
If you were to divide your working hours between coaching individuals or couples or speaking before groups, how would you divide that? What would be the breakdown?
Well, so this is really, I mean, I really just retired in 2024, early 2024. And so I've been doing workshops. So I'm kind of just getting the traction and the momentum going. So, and then I'm writing a book. So mostly I've been doing content creation. I don't even know the true answer to that because it's, I'm literally in my second career of doing this.
Uh-huh.
So, but I would say this, the couples coaching to my workshop and organization, bringing my workshop stuff to organizations, I would hope and expect that it would break down to really 50-50. 50% of my time I'm working with couples, and I do that on the phone or in Zoom. I also do couples retreats, and then 50% of the time I'd be traveling to companies, organizations, or doing it on Zoom. So that's
Okay.
that's my intention. Yeah,
That sounds good. Do you enjoy giving in-person speeches or talks?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I do like the physical, visceral. Yeah,
There's something about that, right? The energy of the room.
there
Yeah, people
is.
talk about that a lot. And it's a whole lot different than turning on a YouTube or a Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, there really, really is. Yeah, so yeah, that's my preference.
As a speaker, do you struggle with like my makeup and my hair and my outfit and all those things that kind of can get in the way of a public speaking engagement?
I do on Zoom, I don't in person. And I'm very much the kind of speaker, and I'm curious, do you do speaking? Do you speak? Okay, I'm curious how you are, but like I personally, I don't really love, resonant love, when I'm in front of a speaker who is very, very polished. It's it's almost seemingly to the word memorized, and it's got all the things. It's impressive. I don't resonate with it. I'm not, so that's what I mean by that. I think it's fantastic, but I'm definitely, because I don't resonate with it, I don't aspire to be that way. In fact, I just want to stand up there and it feels like it's just you and not one-on-one us talking. So that's why I love that one-on-one. And I don't fuss. I also don't want to fuss with it because I find that to be such the personally, like to have to look like something that feels very 80s. And you know what I mean when I say 80s. That
Right,
feels
right.
very 80s to me. And I'm like, no, I think that most people, the collective, we are becoming much more authentic, true, honest, transparent. And so I just want to be another human being who has stuff she loves to share and you want to learn or receive. And let's have that dance and moment versus your part is to watch me and then clap, and my part is to razzle dazzle you. It's- I just that I would not speak if I was going to play that game.
Is there a difference between keeping your audience engaged and enthralled when you're doing it here on a Zoom versus when you're in the room with them?
My big thing is get them active and involved. So that's why even earlier when I'm like, well, you think of something, Matt, think of a time, whatever. So I actually step up to all of that as if I'm having a one-on-one coaching. Like in my mind, I'm going to coach this person right here, right now with my goods versus just do this.
What brought you back to Illinois? Was it back to Illinois or was it to Illinois from California?
It was back to Illinois and the divorce. getting divorced. Yeah.
Okay. And is that where family is from and all that, your
Hmm.
roots and all that?
Yes.
And that
Yes.
makes you feel cozy and comfy having all that close by.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you create the metric for your success? How do you know if Laura's doing a good job?
Mm, I love your questions. So I went through the crazy hamster wheel life of years ago of writing goals, writing, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? And then it never really, it may be getting a little bit, but never necessarily, I never hit the wall. I never got all the way to the wall or across the finish line. And so then I got really tired of that. And I also got very deflated and very like unenergized and not feeling super empowered because I'm like, God, you are just not, you keep having the same goal and it's not getting hit. It's not getting hit. So then I'm like, well, why are you not hitting this goal? And so clearly do a little bit more introspection and go, why do I want this? Why do I want this? And then I found I don't really want that. So clarity on my goals, and then using NLP, this came in it, which was, okay, so Laura, let's stop making a thing going to equal your success. A certain car, a certain vacation, flying first class, like these external things. If I had that, I would then feel successful. Well, I did have some of those, and I still didn't feel successful.
Hmm.
And so I said, Laura, you've got to come up with your own definition of success and not what everyone else is doing, because I was like borrowing from the external, oh, they're successful, so I must get that too. And so I wrote down, here is my definition of success. If I am at any given moment of the day, the week, the month, the year, if I am doing what I want, the way that I want to do it, when I want to do it, I'm successful. That was years ago. That was like 2013. I wrote out that new
Uh-huh.
definition, and 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 that is my life. That is my life, and even more so every single day. So I'm always successful because I do what I want, when I want, the way I want. So that is my metric, personal metric. There's like a single word, and in one word, and this is what I teach people too. In one word, there's volumes being spoken.
That's
So I
right.
just need one word. If I just see one word, it's just like, oh, right, and it totally puts me into a state, and then I'm able to proceed in a very productive way, and in an empowered way, and in a clear way.
I think that those words that you write down are the beginning expectations of a dream. And you know what it means. Everyone else does not have to know as long as you
Right.
can act on it.
Yes. And I want that for everybody. And that
Yeah,
again goes back to that know yourself. You are so, there's only one you, one of a kind. Your path is the only path of its kind. It should not look like everybody else's, nor should you put all your effort and attention on trying to make it look like, your neighbors. That's where you lose energy, you lose power, you lose focus. So yes. So that's what works for me. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, I want to have a couple of more questions about career and stuff like that, and I want to take it into a whole new direction. Do you see any latest trends on thought, behavior, and communication going from today forward?
Oh, well, so from today forward, any trends, just like coaching back in 1998 when I started, or even 96 when I really started, I do, I saw the trend. That made sense. I had tapped into the frequency of this is a new way. I think the same thing about the word. So I see a trend of people are going to be much more thoughtful and deliberate about the words they say and being very lucid, very clear that the word I just used, it affected the channel, the body, it affected that part of my system. Instead of just saying things and just saying them. I do see that as a trend.
Are
People,
there any things coming up right now for you in the near future that would be, let's say, a public event where you get to show your stuff, where people could join up or take a look at, listen to?
yeah, yeah. So starting in January, I will be doing what is called Word Power Wednesdays. I mean, if you go to my website, you can, sign up for it. They're free, and it's just 1 hour every Wednesday where I take a word or a concept in life, a situation in life, and I help people what I call word shop it. Instead of workshop it, word shop it. Understand the language you're using and its effect on you, and then maybe making a few nuanced tweaks with words you already use. It's just, I want you to understand the energy and the power you get from using certain words. And so that is right now the one and only way really to experience something that I'm doing, unless of course anyone hears this and they're like, I'd love, for her to speak to my group, my organization. I definitely do that as well. And that's just reach me through my website.
And tell everyone what the website is.
It's lauraberkeycoaching.com.
And when you're doing the word of the week,
It's Word Power Wednesdays.
so do you
Yeah,
teach people how to use a particular word that they might bring up or when to use a certain word? Is that what it's going to really focus on?
there's three simple ways to understand why words are important to you. One is just personal performance, how you show up. And it is based on what you think, because what you think triggers immediately how you feel. So one, I deal with words and show people just on the emotional state being their performance. The second way is just on goal setting and setting intentions and life creating, like what you create in your life.
I'm going to definitely show up and take a look at that.
Yeah, good, good, good. Yeah, and it will feel like a coaching session. It's dynamic, it's interactive, and you will really get to like move things around. I always say like move the furniture around in
Uh-huh.
just how you think about things, yourself, your goals, your challenges.
How do you unwind after a long, hard day of work?
I have an infrared sauna in my
Oh, do
house.
tell.
I love it. I only really use it during the winter because it just like the summer's really hot here. So, but it is so healthy and so good for you. So I really like doing that. So that's one way. I love walking and I have a cute little puppy girl. So,
Uh-huh.
and I just love walking. Like I just love the actual movement of moving my feet in that way. So those are two definite ways that I wind down. Yeah, yeah. You sleep better at night, and then you just feel because of like, all the health benefits of it. You feel like, God, I feel mighty. I feel like healthy. Yeah,
Ah, the
highly
healthy and
recommend
mighty
that.
Laura Berkey.
Yes, yes, yes.
I hope you had a good time today. Was there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have touched on?
Mm, no, I'm so grateful that you started with the food. Thank you for that. And I would like to ask you if I could, because I don't know when I'll get to talk with you again. But
You
what
can call
is
me
like
anytime you want. That
for
goes for
real?
everybody out there. For real.
Okay. Oh,
My
okay. Well,
number
then
is
I'll
like
be.
right there. But yeah,
Oh,
go
great.
ahead. Ask me what you want.
What what's your favorite like food, like dish? Like what do you just love?
You're getting into some really deep area here, Laura.
Hmm.
My favorite
I know
dish
that's
is
the
going
easy
to be,
question.
it's not though. My favorite dish is to create something that you will love. So whoever I'm cooking for gets the bennies, gets the goodies, gets the all the fun. And so I'm cooking for your palate, not for mine. When I cook for mine, it's simple and boring and dull. And I think a lot of chefs will tell you that. So we're out for the glory. We want your taste buds to turn, circles.
And do you get that on a daily or weekly experience cooking for other people?
Well, I cook for my wife. She gets it now, but I'm not cooking professionally anymore. I consult, but I don't cook. She loves what I do, and you wouldn't want her in the kitchen anyway. I had to introduce her to that room where they prepared food once upon a time.
Oh, wow. But that's a good cook's
Yeah.
dream, isn't it? Isn't that a dream? Like my husband's like that. He doesn't want to ever go in there. I'm like, great, because like I love it. Let me have that space. Okay, I have to
Right.
ask you this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So
No, go right
you
ahead. I'm an
toured
open
with the
book.
Eagles. Thank you.
Yeah.
You toured with the Eagles. And so just how, like, and I am talking like just the moment that came to you, the opportunity, how did that moment happen?
My neighbors across the street were old men. They were like 21 or 22 years old. They had been working, doing the rock and roll circuit and merchandising. And they approached me. I was 17, 16, 17. They said, "Hey, Matt, would you like to go out on the Hotel California tour with the Eagles?" And I said, "Yeah, but I'm going to have to ask my parents first for permission." And One thing led to another. I asked my parents, they said, sure, go have a nice time, enjoy your life. This is going to be amazing. You can finish up high school later. And that was that. That was kind of the beginning of my rock and roll world, which started out in merchandising.
Okay. Two questions just from that. So do you have very
Yeah.
hippie, very liberal parents that would just say like 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid, go ahead on the road with a rock and roll band?
Mom and dad were very hippie and very liberal, only for me, not for my sister, who is 4 years my senior.
Right.
They trusted me. I was well ahead of my years. And, I ended up running a lot of the road crews at that time. There was a double standard. They would have never, ever have done that with her. For me, it's like they knew I had my stuff together and I could take care of it. And it was the beginning of quite a wonderful number of years.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then prior to that moment happening, did you ever, can you remember ever having a thought, a vision, a hope, an idea, a knowing of like that kind of experience would like it would make sense? Like, so any iteration before you actually heard somebody say, "Hey, would you like to go on the road?" Was there any pre anything that didn't seem so surprising because there was this pre moment?
I love it when you work it, Laura, by the way. That was a great, great way to ask. Uh, I knew I wasn't going to end up working at McDonald's like most of the people I went to school with. I knew I wasn't going to be living a typical life like that. And I knew I would be going elsewhere, but I could not have imagined that specifically.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And that's one of the words is knowing. Like knowing is not here. Knowing is it's way it's even beyond. It's but so you just knew. And so I even like love to help people tap into what and that's why I always say know thyself. That's such a key thing is know yourself. And there's a whole lot to that. So it's not even a simple thing, but that's cool that you knew my life is going to be not that. But then
Right.
and that's cool because you didn't necessarily put your finger on it's going to be that because that even has its problems. Honestly, it's got its, but when you leave it like open to providence, and people should look up what providence means. But when you leave it open to providence, which you did, because you're just like, I just know that's not it, but I'm not totally going to define what it is for me, you open yourself up to this exact kind of amazing kismet, synchronicity, opportunity. So that's so cool.
Yeah,
And are you, last question, I swear, are you in touch with, or are you still connected at all with any of the Eagles members?
no, no, it's been a number of years since, I was in
Mhm.
touch with them or Fleetwood Mac or Pink Floyd or Dan Aykroyd, or of course, Robin
Oh, okay.
Williams and, all the folks that I worked with and cooked for. That was almost like lifetimes ago.
Yeah, I relate with that. Like it's like, yeah, lifetime. Like that was a whole different lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the days I'll never remember.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me ask you those questions.
Oh, you bet. I hope you had a good time today.
Mhm, I did.
Good. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
We say here, we say goodbye. We say aloha.
Oh, you're still in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Okay. Aloha.
Fantastic. Thanks, Laura. Once again, Laura Berkey visiting with us here on 50 Tastes of Gray. Take care, Laura. We'll talk to you soon.
You too, Matt. It was perfect. Yeah, you do a great job. You do a great job with this. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it was why I was looking. I didn't even, I watched a few of yours. I went and saw a few just the other day, but just, yeah, your whole vibe and presence is, it's visceral. And I felt like I was sitting on your couch.
Good,
Yeah, just
good.
talking to you. It's wonderful.
Oh, that's so sweet.
All right.
So
Well,
be
thank you,
well, my
Matt.
friend.
Thank you so much. Okay, you
It
too.
was nice meeting you. Take care.
Same. You too.
Bye bye.